guys, welcome to the channel. First real video. Today we're in the Porsche 991.1 GT3 RS, courtesy of my friends over at Monza Exotics. If you're in Southern California and you're looking to rent any luxury or exotic car, go hit them up and they'll take care of you. They've got a beautiful fleet of cars, just like this GT3 RS that you can rent today. Now let's get into the video, but before we go for a drive, let's take a look at a few things. Most of you guys probably already know that the GT3 RS is powered by a naturally aspirated 4-liter flat 6 married to a 7-speed PDK gearbox. It produces 500 horsepower and 339 foot-pounds of torque with an 8,800 RPM Redline. Pushing that power to its rear wheels has a top speed of around 193 miles an hour with your 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds and 0 to 100 in 7.1 seconds. This car weighs in at just over 3,150 pounds, making it 22 pounds lighter and producing 25 more horses than the 991.1 GT3. Now the 3RS is able to produce up to 750 pounds of downforce at 125 miles an hour thanks to the overall aero of the car, mainly nodding to your front air extractors and that massive rear wing, which alone can generate up to 500 pounds of downforce. Now the RS is RS standing for Rennsport, as I'm sure most of you guys are familiar, are all about weight savings, and this thing is covered in carbon fiber, most of which you can't even see. Starting off in the front here, your front fenders, constructed of carbon, popping that front trunk lid, fully carbon, coming around to the back here, carbon fiber wing, and popping this rear deck lid carbon, and a lot of the engine compartment components are carbon as well. Now, if all that carbon weren't enough for you in terms of weight savings, Porsche took it one step further. Take a look at these badges. They're actually decals instead of the traditional metal badges you'd see on a Porsche for both the front and the rear. Coming around to the inside, you'll see we got nylon strap door handles, full carbon bucket seats, and in the RSs, there's no rear seats that you traditionally see in a 911. You might be wondering, with all this carbon, why does the 991.1 not have a carbon roof? And that's because it's actually made out of magnesium, which ended up being 2.2 pounds lighter than its carbon fiber counterpart. In the RS, there's no option for a sunroof, no heated or cooled seats, obviously, and your buckets, they're repositioned manually. Another cool thing to note is the factory option that was available to have a delete of your AC and your infotainment / radio for additional weight savings. However, thankfully, this car has both the radio and the air conditioning. Now hopping back out of the car, noting that you've got 4.3 cubic feet of trunk space. However, if that's not enough for you, the fact that there's no rear seats in the GT3 RS gives you ample storage room for whatever you might need to put back there, whether it be groceries, bags, your dog, you name it, you could probably fit it in this car. Now the RS comes sitting on center lock wheels, 21 inches in the rear, 20 inches in the front, as well as Porsche's ceramic composite brakes, known as PCCB, with these massive 16.1 inch rotors in the front. Absolutely huge. Now, in addition to that, the 3RS has 3-way adjustable sway bars, adjustable lower control arms, and a completely adjustable differential. And coming back to the engine compartment here, pop that, as you probably saw before, not much for you to look at other than your coolant and oil, because Porsche doesn't want you screwing anything up back there. Now, one last thing on the exterior here before we go ahead and hop in. This individual car from Monza is actually pretty cool because it's straight piped and has an exhaust system from Sharkworks, so as you'll hear in a little bit here, it sounds insane. Going ahead and hopping in, first thing you'll probably notice is this Alcantara steering wheel, as well as the Sport Chrono package on this thing. And once again, nylon strap door handles for that additional weight reduction. Now, taking a look at the console, you'll see some buttons, starting with the easy ones. Obviously, you have your hazards, your locks, PDK Sport, PASM button, which is the Porsche Active Suspension Management, your stability and traction control, which you can hold down to turn off here. This, which is pretty neat, your pit speed, so you could set a pit limiter if you're at the track. Then you have your front lift, so you don't have to worry about coming in and out of driveways. And lastly, you have your exhaust valve button, which for this car doesn't apply. It's non-functional since this does have an aftermarket exhaust. Moving on to the steering wheel, you'll notice that it's a little bit different with these GT steering wheels. They lack the buttons that are found on most Porsche models, whether that be a base 911 or a Cayenne. Instead of having those, you have this little staff here, which you can control your screen right there, and then the obvious things like your paddles, your turn signal, wipers, and cruise control. On the passenger side here, we have some of the most amazingly over-engineered cup holders, which are honestly so effective. Out of all the supercars I've driven, there's no cup holder that stands a chance like these do. You could be hauling through canyon corners and you do not have to worry about your coffee spilling all over you. These are so stable and they honestly look good too. It doesn't take away from the design of the car. So that's one thing that Porsche has done really well, is making aesthetic and effective cup holders like that. Now, as you might have also noticed, we've got the fire extinguisher here. Since the RS is a track-oriented car designed for the racetrack, something you're going to want to have. Rather be safe than sorry in case you need to put out some flames in your car or maybe someone else's. Now let's go ahead and fire her up, bring it to life. Take a look here, center console, see the gear selector. Now, there is no option for manual, which a lot of you guys probably know when it comes to the RSs. So if you do want a manual, you're gonna have to opt for the GT3 rather than the RS, as it only comes with the PDK, which is Porsche's dual clutch system. And honestly, as fun as manual cars are, something that's designed for the track, such as this car, there is no competing with how effective that transmission is, how quickly you change gears. No human being can compete with that. So Porsche certainly knew what they were doing when they decided to make the RSs only available with the PDK transmission rather than a manual. As much as I do love manual, it just makes sense in this car for it to be PDK. Another pretty cool feature that's only possible with the GT cars is if you go ahead and turn on your PDK Sport, put the car in drive in the manual, hold both paddles in, and you'll see that one start to blink. Now that effectively means that the clutch is in. So your car is pretty much in neutral and you can clutch kick it or do whatever you want, which is pretty sweet. Now, other cars such as Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you know, when you pull in both paddles, that's gonna put the car in neutral. Porsche doesn't work like that. However, if you do have the car in PDK Sport and you depress both pedals, it will put the car in neutral momentarily. All right, so now that we've looked over the car a little bit, why don't we do the fun part and we'll go for a drive. Hard to beat the sound of a straight pipe naturally aspirated flat six too. Given that it's safe right here, we're gonna go ahead and launch it. Not too bad. Also nice having the ability to shift gears with your gear selector here when it's tipped over like that. You know, it's funny, so in the regular 991s, it's actually flipped. In the RS, and I'm assuming probably the GT3 as well, but I know for sure in the RSs, it's pulled towards you to upshift, which certainly feels more natural. But in the base, in regular 911s, it's actually the opposite. It's a push forward to shift up, and the opposite to downshift. For a view, not bad. Suspension on this thing is just incredible. How planted it is, unreal. And that PASM certainly helps too. Just perfectly engineered. That engine right over that rear axle is just grounded. up? On this car too, no top in Michelin. There's an incredible amount of grip and road feel. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our first video. Got to start somewhere, so might as well start with one of my favorite cars, the 991.1 GT3 RS. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to Monza Exotics. Go hit them up if you're in SoCal looking to rent any luxury or supercar. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.